I'm here because we had to make some difficult decisions through the day. We're going to continue with our tournament. I continue to believe it's important that we give all 14 teams who arrived here in Nashville the opportunity to play for a conference tournament championship and our automatic bid. We're going to continue to do that, but as the day progressed, we received some news, some information from the NCAA, particularly their Board of Governors, and information from what is called the COVID-19 Advisory Group, a group of, I think, 11 or 12 people, 6 are medical doctors, experts in their field. I'm certainly not an immunologist or an infectious disease specialist, but after the news broke from the NCAA, we were, with our athletics directors, we convened a conference call of our presidents and chancellors and advanced a recommendation that we alter our fan access, which we've done. So we've sent a press release that communicates that. We've also altered access to our regular season events on campus, both conference versus conference and conference teams versus non-conference teams, between tomorrow, March 12th, and Monday, March 30th. We'll obviously be reviewing circumstances during that time to see if that may be extended, or we can conclude our approach on March 30th and return to operations as usual. Disappointing news for everyone involved. It is important to give our student athletes this opportunity. We've prepared to do that in a healthy environment. The Nashville Predators have been phenomenal partners, both in dealing with this news and preparing the arena so that we can meet those health expectations. The news for the city is not what I wanted to provide, given that just over a week ago a tornado hit and we were planning to raise relief funds here. That's obviously been altered, so we'll need to recalibrate. Yet this city is one of the many that's the heartbeat of the SEC, and we want to be supportive given our long-term relationship. So with that, I'll do my best to answer the questions that you may have.
If you'll raise your hand, we'll get some floor mics to you. Morgan and Ellery have some mics out there. Let's start right in the middle on the center aisle.
Greg, how will the refund process work for fans?
We have said in our release, just so that I use, it's a later paragraph. Fans who are the original purchaser of the tickets from the SEC office and SEC University, a verified purchaser on the SEC Ticket Exchange, that's through Ticketmaster, will receive automatic refunds of those ticket purchases. We obviously don't control what's happened on the secondary market, but we'll take the approaches I described with those through official outlets.
A question in the back on the left.
Greg, were you advised of the NBA's decision tonight, and was there any discussion about shutting down altogether?
I learned of the NBA's decision 15 minutes ago, probably right before it broke publicly. We have not discussed with intent not holding the event. As you can imagine, when you go through contingency planning at the conference office, we have considered that, but we don't believe we're there. The public health officials in Nashville have been our source of information. That's why we've continued as we did tonight. But the change at the national level has altered our approach, but hasn't put us at this point into cancellation. But I was at dinner saying I'm excited to have fans and play last night, so this is a fluid situation, and we're mindful of the fluidity.
Question in the back on the center aisle.
Hi, Commissioner. What assurances can you give, and what precautions are you taking to protect players from each other? If there aren't fans there, that doesn't protect them from. How do you know you don't have an infected player?
Well, we convened a call last Friday of our sports medicine professionals on campus. Each of our universities and their teams are fully attentive to their condition. Sitting here today, that's a responsibility that they undertake on a daily basis for their student athletes, not the commissioner or conference office, and we're confident in the work that they do with their student athletes.
Raise your hand. Other questions for Commissioner Sankey? Hands up. I think we got one in the back on the left. Go ahead.
Greg, the NCAA advised against allowing fans in, I guess, around 3:30, and then obviously you guys made the decision to allow fans in. What went into that decision?
Any decision to prevent fans, first of all, the local information was that we could conduct our tournament safely with fans through the weekend. What has happened is the national recommendation has changed the dynamics for us. And given that people had traveled, given that we were prepared from a public safety standpoint, and on a Wednesday evening you can find enough space to separate yourselves, I felt confident in making the recommendation that we move forward.
Other questions? Raise your hand. All right, let's go to the middle.
I might also add, Joseph, we needed time to convene our folks to make a decision. So with that in mind, that's why I recommended we move forward as I described.
Go ahead.
Greg, just as someone who works in college athletics, when you found out that the NCAA was going to do what it did, were you surprised? Were you shocked, or were you just thinking this is part of the time in which we're living?
Surprise, shock, probably a few other words that came to mind. Disappointment. You know, we have a national association for which I have great respect, but there are those frustrating times, and the ability to have information to make decisions in the best manner possible is important to all of us. And with full knowledge, we had a conference tournament at this level in the ACC start yesterday, so you can imagine the enormous difficulty that we're faced with in making these decisions, making these adjustments, informing people, some who have probably traveled here, others who were ready to go. But respect that medical leaders, experts have provided a recommendation. While I wish it may have been earlier or perhaps later, it's the best information available now, and we have to respect that. As I walk through the day, from the initial analysis, you clear your mind and you start working through decisions that have to be made, and that's the responsibility that I have as the commissioner of this conference. And then I'm sure that the emotions will return at some point after I unwind, and we'll refocus pretty quickly to get back to work. But I understand the disappointment for everybody. Perhaps I don't understand it in the same way, but I have my own disappointment because I've come to love this event, love having it in this city. Disappointing is a good word, but we also have a reality around public health to which we're managing.
All right, question in the back in the middle.
Commissioner, the decision to also have no fans on the on-campus events, baseball, softball, et cetera, whatever it may be, was there additional information that went into that? Because it's a very different set of circumstances than having 20,000 people in one place.
Several pieces of information. One is there were actually 2 releases today from the NCAA National Office, one from the COVID-19 advisory panel, as I recall, that spoke to the concerns with having large gatherings around sporting events. So that was a moment. We also have 2 universities this week who, after spring break, one has canceled its classes and will move to online content delivery next week. Another has identified the need for online delivery as where it's possible, that being Vanderbilt and the University of Florida. We have, 5 or 6 on spring break now. We have contingency planning taking place. We have other announcements of delays of return to classes. And so we're managing an environment on campus to which we're all learning and adapting. And so all of those pieces fit, but part of it was the messaging added on top of all that today from this advisory panel.
All right, the question in the far left in the back.
Just wonder, can you take us through a timeline of today, the decision-making process, who you spoke with, and how you came to that final conclusion that was announced at 8/11?
I won't hit all of it. We had a task force, a working group meeting of something unrelated, but we began an athletics directors meeting at 9:30 and had already revised an agenda for a previously scheduled meeting to focus on the COVID-19 coronavirus up front. We talked about options, so one of the things on our mind was allowing fans to just return tickets, kind of self-selecting not to attend to lessen attendance and provide refund information. We had held that. We went through a lot, and then about an hour and a half took a break. We were talking about name, image, and likeness issues that are also on our agenda. and information started to come from a congressional hearing that was very specific. The World Health Organization issued a declaration of a pandemic, and you could tell that our room changed as we saw that information, and so the focus on the agenda removed. We took a break, started in conversation with some of my leadership at the presidential level, with some of our local hosts, and then that played out. I think we had probably a conference call among the autonomy commissioners early afternoon, right around 3, I'm guessing, a note from the NCA about impending news, then the news, and then we re-engaged at 3:30, and I think we're able to connect with our presidents, chancellors, athletics directors in person and via conference call about 5:30.
Okay, we got
In a meeting that began at 5:30, yeah.
we've got several.
And that was limited by travel and availability issues.
Several questions right here in the middle. You guys raise your hand again. All right, Pat, go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, what would it take to, at some point, cancel this tournament? Would there have to be some more serious situation in the community here in Nashville?
Our preceding conversations were about local public health advice, and that would remain.
Okay, to the middle, go ahead.
Obviously, we're sitting at the basketball tournament, and I'm sure basketball is what's at the forefront of your mind, but how much discussion was there about other SEC tournaments coming up, gymnastics, equestrian, all of those in the coming weeks?
We've been mindful because this is our 4th consecutive week of conference championships, swimming and diving, indoor track and field, women's basketball, men's basketball. Gymnastics next week will have the same approach, limited attendance, limited to family of student athletes and official party and media members who are credentialed. Equestrians the following week in Athens, Georgia, and we'll have the same approach there. It's campus based, and the nature of that sport's just a little bit different than some that are contained in this way, but we'll take the same approach to that event. Then we have a break for about 4 weeks. We'll be on the other side of March 30. We'll be in conversation to see what that means. Tennis and golf are up next in mid-late April. And then we go into softball, outdoor track and field, and baseball in May. So we have some time to assess, which we certainly will be doing. But we spent time up front knowing that we had men's basketball now, we had gymnastics that would be affected by this decision, and even the equestrian championship in a few weeks.
All right, we're going to take 2 more questions. If you have a question, raise your hand. Let's come right here to the middle center. Go ahead.
Greg, also spring football is underway. What kind of conversation have you had with the different coaches and the schools as far as the different spring games that will be going on?
We had very brief conversations about spring games and various activities. So we'll be reconnecting. I think most of those are outside of our March 30 window. I'm not exactly certain that I track on that. We're proceeding with other things. We have, I think, a video review session this weekend for football preparation. So some elements will continue. We obviously have been in a crisis consideration, a crisis management situation, so that's kept our attention on the immediate issues I've described, and we'll be reconnecting both as a staff tonight and in the future days and weeks, and then with our athletics directors and campus leaders, our presidents and chancellors in the weeks ahead about other issues.
All right, we'll take the last question right here in the middle, center aisle.
Greg, on the March 30th, what about events March 31st going forward? Are those like it's all clear, go ahead, or reassessments as you go?
We'll be reassessing continually between now and then. We had much discussion about dates. If I understand the NCAA's approach, it goes through the Final Four, which is the following week. We felt it appropriate to give some information so people can adjust plans. We didn't feel bound to that Final Four date, so the 3 weekends that are upon us will be past spring break dates, but we'll be reassessing beginning tomorrow, I'm certain.